Hey there, Creeper. Welcome to Creepy Conversations. I'm Nikki, and we are literally just starting this so we can get over with our lives.
And I'm Kalai. By the way, I just realized I don't know how long this episode is going to be because it doesn't have a timer.
There is a timer.
Where can you see that? I don't have that.
Do you want me to give you like signals? It's like... Or do you want me to do like what you do in the pregame where you're like, that's enough?
Okay. I'm just giving the signals. Let's do this. By the way, if you're not on Patreon, Nikki and I are on video on Patreon. So you'll see
we can do hand signals silently
without the audio people knowing what the hand signals are. So sign up for the hand signals. Creepy Conversations. Wait, no. Patreon.com Creepy Conversations. No. Patreon.com/Creepy Convos.
I hate how everything is wrong.
It took me 3 tries.
3 times the charm.
I'm trying to stop myself from laughing because nothing's funny anymore.
I can just imagine my sister trying to like listen to the podcast and just like cursing all the time because we cannot for the life of us stay serious. And she's like, how many fucking laughs and like in breaths do I have to remove here? Because we just breathe too much. Like that was her comment before. She was like, you guys breathe too much. Like how even?
Because we laugh way too much. I don't know.
What does that mean? Like, no, that's what I thought too. But then she's like, even like on normal conversations.
Yeah, I actually heard our breathing, especially mine. I'm trying not to breathe in. I'm like,
it's like move away from the microphone.
Okay, so this week for this shorty, we're going to be talking about the Boroka. Our source for this episode is Aswang Project. And yeah, that's
what
our Bible.
Boroka?
So the Boroka is it's a lot like an Aswang. It's a self-segmenting viscera sucker, but it's from Zambales. Because, you know, the Aswang basically is like, if you guys don't know, they're also like, how do I explain them? They're basically mostly female monsters, vampire-like creatures that separate their upper half and lower half, like up to the hips. And then they fly around and then look for children, pregnant women, so that they can eat the baby inside the tummy through the belly button. So that's what an aswang is. Or we call them manananggal. That's like another famous term that they have. We've covered that if you guys want to. I don't really want to recommend it because our audio back then sucked. But if you guys want to know more about it, you guys can listen to that episode. It's somewhere in our first few episodes. So yeah, the Boroka is apparently a corruption of the Spanish bruja, which is a witch. And then there's a tale, like a folktale called the Pedro and the Witch, which is where the Boroka is mentioned in Philippine literature and folklore. It isn't really the first time that it's mentioned, but it's like the first documentation of where it is. So the Boroka is very similar to other creatures from other parts of Southeast Asia. So if you're from Malaysia, it's similar to your penanggal. If you're from Thailand, it's similar to krasue.
Yeah.
And then the layak of Indonesia, which I feel like we've covered.
I feel like we've covered all of them.
Yeah.
We briefly explained what the manananggal is and how it's kind of relevant or has a similar, I don't know, ancestry to what our Asian neighbors have.
Yeah. And if you guys know the history of Asia, you'd know why we have like very similar monsters. In the Philippines, we're an archipelago. If you're from the US, we're not in one island. So basically, we're made up of different tiny islands. And I'm explaining this because I've heard multiple podcasts that are like, what's an archipelago? So yeah, it's a country made out of different islands, basically.
I wonder how many episodes we'll have that
explaining
we
this.
have to explain. Yes, because I know for a fact that we had previous episodes where we explained this too.
Yeah, I just want to, for our new listeners. So basically, in the Philippines, other parts of the Philippines, abat or awok in Waray is the same as the Boroka. In Cebu, we also have abat, right? Like it's like another term for a monster. And then, like I mentioned, Aswang. Boroka is the one that we're going to be covering is from Zambales, but there's also one from Ilocos. And then there's this term. It says that it's from Cebu, but I'm not familiar with this. It's called Mansalawan. Do you know that? I don't know what that is.
What is that?
But it's
I've
basically
never heard of that word before, but it sounds like a really old word. Like I can imagine our, I don't know, grandparents saying those words, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, but it is basically an aswang, but from Cebu. Because there is a town here in Cebu that's like known for... We'll talk about that later. And then another one is Mangalok from the Cuyunon and Hiligaynon people. Ikwi from the Tagalog people. And the Manananggal is from Bicol and Tagalog. I think the Manananggal is like the most common term around the Philippines, and Aswang. And then Silagan from Catanduanes, and then Wakwak from Surigao, which also is in Cebu, but Wakwak is different from a Manananggal or Aswang for us here in Cebu. It's like the familiar of an Aswang.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the term, we have that term here too. So yeah, I mentioned earlier that there is a documentation like in our literature called Pedro and the Witch, and I just want you guys to hear about it because I know there are lots of Filipinos out there that are from all over the world that aren't really familiar with our shit. I mean, I'm from the Philippines, in the Philippines right now, and have not read about this. So this is from Dean Fansler's 1921 book called The Filipino Popular Tales, where he mentions the Boroka. So the story goes, it's narrated by Santiago Dumalo of Narciso Zambales. So the story goes, Pedro was the son of a poor man. He lived with his father and mother by the seashore. Early one morning, his parents went out to look for food, leaving him alone in the house. He stayed there all day, waiting for them to return. Evening came, but his mother and father did not appear. Some misfortune had overtaken them. Pedro felt very hungry, but he could not find food in the house. In the middle of the night, he heard someone tapping at the door. Thinking that was his mother, he arose and went to meet her. When he opened the door, however, he saw that it was not his mother who had rapped, but Boroka, whom children are very much afraid of. Now, Boroka was a witch. She had wings like a bird, 4 feet like a horse, but a head like that of a woman. So I'm going to get out of the story. This is very different from how Manananggals are usually described. I mean, sometimes they're described as someone who has wings like birds, but mostly they're described as someone who has bat-like wings. Yeah. And they also don't have 4 feet like a horse. They have regular human feet.
I'm amazed by this creature because I've never heard something like this in our folklore. And it's kind of like a mix of a centaur / Pegasus thing with the human head or something like that. Because ours,
yeah, I'm thinking the same as well. So yeah, it's cool to know that it is basically an Aswang, but it's different also. So she's known to devour boys and girls, and especially fond of their liver. As soon as Pedro opened the door, she seized him and carried him off to her home in the mountains. She was not afraid of the witch. He was obedient to her, and soon she made him her housekeeper. Whenever she went out at night to look for food, he was sure to have flesh and liver for breakfast the next day. Whenever the witch was away, Pedro used to amuse himself riding on the back of a horse that would often come to see him. It taught him to ride well, and the two became great friends. One day, when the children began to get scarce and Boroka was unable to find any to eat, she made up her mind to kill Pedro. She left the house and she went to invite the other witches so they might have a great feast. While she was gone, the horse came and told Pedro of his danger and advised him what to do. It gave him 2 handkerchiefs. Am I saying that right?
That sounded weird. I also don't know how to say it, but like that sounded strange.
Let's just say hankies. He gave him 2 hankies. Dude.
We sound like children. I love it.
To those that don't know, English isn't my first language, nor is it my second. So forgive me. So 2 hankies, 1 red and the other 1 white.
Can we just say like bandana or something? Hanky sounds so funny.
Yeah, sure. Bandana. A towel.
Potato.
Yeah. A bandana. Fine. And then the bandana sounds like some gangster shit. Like
I know. That's what I'm trying to like make it sound gangsta.
And then Pedro jumped on the horse's back and the horse ran as fast as it could. Not long afterward, he noticed that the witches were pursuing them. When they came near, Pedro dropped the red bandana, which immediately changed into a large fire. The wings of the witches were all burnt off. However, the witches tried to pursue the horse on foot, for they could run very fast. When they were almost upon him again, Pedro dropped the white bandana, which became a wide sea through which the witches could not pass. Pedro was now safe and thanked the horse for its help. And then now he's living alone in the woods. What the? He should have like told the horse, dude, I'm gonna live with you because you saved my life. I'm gonna be your,
That was such a roller coaster of a story because it's like, he didn't even grieve for the loss of his parents. He was just like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna live with a fucking witch because I lost my parents. I kind of found my foster mom, who is now trying to kill me. So now I'm gonna go ahead and like talk to a horse.
Yeah. I mean, kids are like that though. They're like, you know what? Sure, as long as I'm alive.
Have we established his age?
No, but I'm pretty sure he's young because probably I'm going to say 6 years old because I feel like older than that, that's too crunchy for a witch.
I'm thinking of it as like a balot analogy. Yeah. Some people, they actually like the older ones, but very seldom do people like it.
I am that person.
Which one? Like you like the older
balot. So to those that don't know what we're talking about, balot is a duck egg which has duck embryo in it. And I'm like, I love birds, but I also love eating them. So I like, I'm gonna feel the feathers and shit. Like,
are you for real? I can only go up to
21
days. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
This is a Filipino delicacy. I don't know why it's a delicacy. It's actually very yummy. I love it. But I cannot deal with 21 days. That shit already has feathers and bones, and it is an actual duck.
Yeah. It's yummy. Anyway, so this kind of correlates to because when you eat balot, you put salt and vinegar on it. And then there's another book called The Creatures of Philippine Lower Mythology by Maximo Ramos. We've probably mentioned him in our previous episodes.
Before, yeah.
Yeah, he talked about the Boroka. He says, but in the years when the present writer was a boy in Zambales, people went into hysterics every time the Boroka, a viscera sucker, was thought to have made its presence. There, a Boroka in a tale called Pedro and the Witch, the one I just read earlier, is reported to have wings like a bird, but a head like that of a woman. Although the present investigators, Zambales informants, describe the Boroka as a true viscera sucker in both appearance and habits, physical beauty, ability to attach the lower portion of her body about midnight before she went out on a raid in the form of a bird, returning with the hearts and livers of their victims before dawn. Her inability to join the upper portion of her body to the lower if ashes and a mixture of salt and vinegar were sprinkled on the latter, and her being frightened off by calling out these substances when signs of her proximity were evident. I've never heard of this for manananggals or aswangs. Like, she gets scared when she hears people talk about salt and vinegar being, threatened to be sprinkled on her lower half.
Yeah.
Manananggals and aswangs are like, haha.
Like, fuck you.
Do it first before I get scared.
No, but like, you can't really say that to a manananggal though, because her upper half is like flying.
Yeah.
But I have seen movies where they depict like them looking worried whenever they're near like salt
and vinegar. Yeah. That's true.
But that's it.
That's true. But I think her version, the Boroka, she must have had, like, probably has great hearing because she could hear people talk about, putting the mixture of Jesus.
Sorry. It's like a brain thing.
Force of habit.
I hate myself. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. But yeah, when she hears people, talk about salt and vinegar, she gets scared. So I feel like she has better hearing than the manananggals and aswangs because she can hear that shit. So yeah, they're similar in the sense that they like children, but they're also like different physically. From what I know, manananggals and aswangs only eat fetuses and newborn babies. I've never heard of no, that's a lie. I've heard of stories of them eating children.
Yeah. Basically, they eat everything, I would say, but they have a preference. If there's a fetus, then they go for that. But if there's none, then whatever's on the menu.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, you guys have met the Boroka. If you guys are from Zambales or anybody who knows about this creature, let us know.
Every time you mention the name Boroka, I cannot, like, my brain does not associate it with a monster or whatever because I keep hearing Boroka, which is the vitamin that I drink every morning. So
yeah, it does sound like it.
Right. And now I'm wondering if it's spelled the same, like a similar way too.
No, it's Boroka. So it's not the same, but it does sound the same. I get what you mean. It sounds a little bit like Spanish.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So yeah, it is like a corruption from the Spanish word bruja. So yeah, I get it.
That's so far. I feel like it's far, like bruja Boroka. Wait, what happened
like,
there?
Those pass the message things.
Yeah, like, and then everyone's just like murdering the word.
Yeah, I feel like that's
along the way.
That's what happened. So yeah, again, thank you to the Song Project and Jordan Clark for this thing. You know, they're basically our Bible. They're our source for a lot of things. So
Yeah.
if you're interested in Filipino mythology, the Aswang Project is a great source for that.
I'd also like to know if like any of our creepers have their own stories to share, because the ones that we usually know about, especially for us, are the ones in Cebu or like Visayas, and of a little bit from Luzon, because you know Manila.
Yeah.
But anything, especially for like the southern part of the Philippines, we barely like, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you guys have something different. It's just we don't know
Probably.
about it.
Also, no, my cousins are from the southern part of the Philippines, and basically their monsters are the same as our monsters. Not that we've ever like went in depth with, oh, what kind of monsters do you guys have?
I can't imagine you having that kind of conversation though. Like, how do you even bring it up?
Yeah. My cousins are probably like, I mean, they know that I am into that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ask them.
We just thought about this now.
Yeah, because my uncle's here. He's visiting. He's originally from here, but he's been living in the southern part of the Philippines for a long time. So, and he loves to talk. So I'll ask him if he has any stories and share it with you guys. And you guys should do the same thing too. Like ask your parents, your cousins, or aunties, uncles. They usually have the best ghost stories. So yeah,
I know.
Open up that conversation.
So different. It's so different from the ghost stories that you like hear. I feel like the ghost stories from the past are more creative
because they didn't have anything else.
Right? No, because most of the ghost stories now have to kind of like make sense, but before it's like, oh, he had like 4 arms, and we're just like,
we were like, yep.
Cool.
We believe it.
That's a thing. Right? Yeah.
And usually if it's like from your elder family, it's usually like a personal story. Like,
that's true.
It's, So ask
it's
them.
It's more relatable.
And then share it with us. Like email it to us, creepyconversations@gmail.com. Or you can message it to us on our Instagram, Creepy Conversations. And then on Twitter, we're trying to be active on Twitter. That's a lie. But we're trying to be active on Twitter, Creepy Convos. You can message it to us as well. On Facebook too, Creepy Convos.
You know what? Forget about Facebook, because who are we kidding? We don't even check the shit we have in there. Just do Twitter and Instagram and you're good, you guys.
Yeah, and email.
And if you also want to see this on video, plus a few more bonus content, I swear to God, you guys are missing out on the bonus fucking content.
We have so much.
Subscribe to us on patreon.com/creepycombos. And don't forget to subscribe to us on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to your podcasts too. And thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
And remember, a Boroka could be watching you. Bye.